Okay, Vance.
All right. Hey, everyone. This is Vance here with A Voice for Joshua. We're back with our for Change series. I'm here with Kia, uh, Caregiver Connections, and our guest today is going to be Jacquelyne Kancir, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about her daughter and some situations she's faced. So, welcome, and thank you all for doing this and for the interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So, Jacquelyne, just give us a little bit of background about yourself and tell us about your daughter, the diagnosis, and just a little bit of background of what you faced.
Um, so our daughter is 17 and a half years old. She has a genetic condition called SYNGAP1. It is a rare genetic condition. So most have never heard about it, but it causes the synapses in her brain to fire incorrectly, and this leads to a whole slew of comorbidities such as autism, profound intellectual disability, and Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, which is a severe seizure disorder, and a variety of other things. She is dependent on a lot of her ADLs, and so she requires 24/7 support. And as she's gotten older, of course, she's gotten bigger, and yet her coping skills and behavioral responses aren't growing with her body. So it is very much what you might see how a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old might respond to a certain situation, but with the strength of a full-grown adult person. So that's what we've been dealing with recently.
Yes, that's very similar to the situations we face with our son. Uh, it's That's one thing people don't understand. When we say we have to deal with the aggressive behaviors, to know that they're bigger now, but when you're dealing with like my son is on an 18-month-old level, so it's hard to describe what that's like.
Yeah.
You know, they still deal with things like they're 2 years old, but their body is much bigger. It's a very hard situation. So, with that, knowing the background, at what point did you realize we're probably going to need some more support and resources to be able to deal with the situations? What time frame was you looking at? What situations was you facing when you realized I'm going to have some help?
Actually, she first got aggressive, I think it was October 2017. And when it first happened, I didn't know anything like that could happen. And so I didn't know that there even was in-home supportive services like that. I just immediately knew this was beyond what I could do, and I didn't know who to even ask to help. So my initial request for help was the school, because she was refusing to let me get her ready for school and was actually physically trying to fight me and attack me when I would try to get her dressed for school. So I contacted the school asking for support, saying, I don't know what to do. I don't want to get in trouble for truancy or anything. It's not that I'm not wanting to send her. I physically cannot do it. I need help here. So that was the first time.
Wow. That's I know that was extremely frustrating to have to go. She's beautiful, by the way. I did
Thank
look
you.
at her pictures and stuff, and so she's beautiful. And but can you tell us, like, did you get when you reached out to the school, were you met with open arms?
I think I would have been if I was in the school district I'm in now.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into the naming any kind of names or anything, but we were in East Tennessee at the time. We're in Middle Tennessee now.
Okay.
And it was a very different uh, mentality or response back then that I received.
Mhm.
And so I got no help from them whatsoever.
Mhm.
I got more help from some friends online. I had, fortunately, there were some people within my network who had already experienced this, and they let me know that this is actually common with this demographic and that there are supportive services. And it was a friend of mine who works in HCVS in another state. She said, this is what I do for a living. You need to find out, there's got to be something where you are. So she was the first one to kind of lead me down that HCVS path. But yeah, no, I got zero support in East Tennessee. So I actually moved, and we have a much more supportive school system here. Her classroom is amazing where she's at now.
That is amazing. I did look at your bio, and I did see that, you know, you're pretty educated in advocacy and you're a professional advocate. So it's not, you know, even though it was still difficult, even though with you having the experience and the education and the know-how, it doesn't make it any better
It
because
really doesn't.
yeah, because the services are just not there in the and that's what we're really trying to do here is because it's not like people don't really know that this is going on or even think about that this needs to be like a staple
I
everywhere.
don't think that they would believe it at first.
Right.
I think it needs a lot of exposure, because I think people are going to have to see a lot of these different stories to believe it. Because I think it would be a human response to just look at this and go, this can't be happening in America. Like,
Right.
you just haven't called the right people, or you haven't done the right job, or you're making it up, or this cannot be going on in America, that somebody's in medical crisis and there isn't support services. You're just not doing enough. And that, I mean, that would be anybody's response.
Hmm.
It's really hard to believe, even while you're in it. You
Right.
keep thinking that there's somewhere else to call, and
Exactly.
there's not.
Yeah. And I did hear when you said that
Yeah.
you didn't even know it was gonna happen. It just came out of nowhere. And you
Yeah.
weren't even prepared for it or you hadn't been told that this could happen, which is just heartbreaking in itself. So I get it. Van?
Yeah, Kia, that's one of the big things about this, and she hit a key point there. Even though you've got a child that has these disabilities, I mean, we was in a similar situation. Josh had some aggression younger,
Hmm.
but when it hit, it's like it hits you out of nowhere, and it just starts, and it starts with an intensity, and it catches you by surprise. Even though your child has these disabilities, you're not expecting this to happen.
Mm-mm.
When it happens, you think, I make a phone call, I get help. That is not the case.
Not in this state.
And she's right. So many people don't understand. And when they hear our stories, they think, well, you're not doing the right thing, or you're doing something wrong, or you're not calling the right people, or you're not making the right,
Right.
finding the right organizations. It don't matter what organization you contact. It don't matter who you know. It don't matter where you go to. The support systems are just not there.
No,
And that's
My ABA therapist actually contacted the police yesterday as proactively trying to let them know our situation and how to respond and to kind of flag the house so that we didn't have a domestic response. We had a medical intervention. And the police officer asked her, I'm not trying to pry or, anything like that or come off rude, but why hasn't she looked into residential or some kind of treatment? And it was just like, oh, well, that doesn't exist right now. That's,
Right.
the doctors can't find a place or a facility for her or treatment for her. And so it's not that we haven't, but even the police officers don't know the gap of services that we have. And they're
Yep.
wondering why we're calling them when we should be able to call for medical help.
Right. And that's the problem is because everybody assumes that there is a place that handles this, and it's not. It's not. And so you have to juggle and call 17,000 numbers just to get another number to call another person or just to get somebody out. So yeah, that is wow, just for the authorities not to know. It's just it's I don't yeah, I don't anything else, Vance?
Well, the authorities, and that's what I tell a lot of people, because we get contacted a lot about that because everybody's afraid to call the police department. And I understand the concerns and I know where they come from because I've heard the stories. The things that I have told families, though, is it is important to let the police departments know because of situations arise, they're better prepared to respond.
Right.
Just for that simple reason. Now, is police departments different? Yeah, you bet. Some are more prepared than others, and you may get in a situation like we did in Knoxville when we called 911 when Josh had the major outburst where we had to have some help immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There was several police officers involved there, very professional, handled it correctly, had all the help that we needed. I know that's not always the case, but we do need to let police departments know just for the fact that way they can respond better.
I have a long-term goal. I was actually talking with that therapist today, and we would love for there to be, you know, once my life's no longer in crisis and I can get back to, you know, world changing and stuff, to have a national code system where, you know, when a call is called in with that code, that the police know that they're responding to a psychiatric crisis that requires medical intervention, that, you know, it may be somebody that's developmentally delayed and that won't respond to their commands, but it doesn't mean that they're resisting arrest, or that may respond aggressively, but it's not that they're trying to harm someone, but they have a developmental disability. And I think that nationally, that's something we are just behind on. And I would love to see some congressmen get behind something like that, and so that we had some blanket reform so parents could comfortably call for help when we really need it.
Right. And even that
Yeah.
would bring awareness to what's not in place, because the fact that we don't have like a call sign right now is just let you know that the services are not there and the response is not there. It's no structure at all. So yeah, I do. We will just wait until you're not in crisis and you're ready to change the world, and we'll just wait until that, or we'll help you with that, with the same. Yes.
Okay. From this point, since you started with the school system and you run into issues there, what is some of the other organizations that after that, where did you start seeking help? Where was you looking for resources and services? What's some of that process?
Well, the first place, and mind you, I didn't have, like, I hadn't joined your group yet, or I didn't know anything in Tennessee yet. I wasn't on the waiver. So I was kind of coming into it blind as far as Tennessee goes. If this would have happened in my former state, I would have been able to show people where to go, but I was new here. So I looked online and it led me to a number for DID. And I don't know if that was out of Maryville or Knoxville, but somewhere in that area. And I contacted them and I got a machine that said to contact another number. And I contacted that number and left a message. I didn't get a call back for like a month, but I did get a call from a DID service provider that was willing to go into the school system with Jadyne and like come in the mornings, early in the morning, 5:15 in the morning, and help me get her ready and go to the school with her. The school was not cooperative with them and would not allow them to come in so that we could get her back to school. So we ended up moving, and when we moved, things started getting rolling here, and it started with me transferring her care to Vanderbilt, which really made a very complex, rounded care plan for her with a variety of doctors and specialists. So that's where we began getting some help, is when we moved here.
So are you seeing much progress in like the services coming together for her now?
Medically, you know, her medical needs are really well covered. And, you know, neurology, she has 3 different neurologists. She has a neurologist for epilepsy, a genetic neurologist, a neuromuscular neurologist. You know, so they have like specialties within specialties even here, and multiple pediatricians, and complex care has their doctor. And so she's had like full systems checks, and they're just really thorough on the medical side of things, as well as they're very helpful. They have case managers and social workers in the different departments to help me kind of work with the insurance companies and ECF. But ECF and the insurance company continue to be my stuck point, because it doesn't matter if you have 30 doctors write an order for something or a necessity for something. If there's no providers available, right, then it doesn't matter. And so that's where we've been at since 2018 here is, yes, she is deemed to be needing facility level care. And yes, she is on the ECF waiver. And yes, you know, all these things. And yes, we are given these hours of CNA care and these hours of community integration, but yet you can't get them because there's no providers available. So that's where for years we've been sitting.
Okay. And I know that can be very frustrating, because in my opinion, ECF, and not to, you know, well, yeah, sorry, but ECF just makes it seem like they're getting services and it's just not here for a whole demographic of people. And so it looks like that there is nothing needs to be updated with ECF. And that's
Well,
just not true.
I got a whole list of things that need to be updated with ECF, but I think that's kind of what adds to the frustration is when we were first told about ECF and applied, and we were already in crisis, and Jadyne was accepted. You know, there's people on wait lists for years. Jadyne was accepted within a month or two under emergent status, and they just kept, but there were no slots open. So she was accepted, but didn't receive services for like 6 or 9 months after that. And the whole time we were being told, you know, just hold on a little longer. You know, you've been approved and ECS coming, and they treated it like the cavalry was coming, like you were gonna get all these services. And so when it came and then nothing happened, it was just that much worse, because they had built it up that this was going to be these services, and it's supposed to be, and they're getting the funding for it. Right. It's not happening. So that's my issue, is where does that money go? That's what I've been barking about for a year. I get generalized answers, like it rolls back into funds. Well, like pennies to accounts. I want to see where that money goes, because to me, somebody is profiting off of an inadequate provider network. Because as long as you don't have providers, you get to keep pushing all that money that should have gone to these kids somewhere else.
Right. I get it.
Oh yeah. That's the exact problem that me and Sarah's talked about, Kia, several times. ECF, you have the MCOs, they have these children and adults, and they have to find service providers. Well, there's none out there. Well, the standard answer is no providers available. That's
Mhm.
what you hear,
Mhm.
because both y'all know Joshua's story.
Yeah.
We thought when we was introduced to ECF, it was the same situation. We was in crisis. He went straight into it. We're approving y'all. You're going to get this amount of in-home care. You're going to have respite available. You're going to have these services available. We're giving him another program. Then that was instated and all these other things, and said, you're going to have all of this available to you, plus all these resources. And then weeks turned into months, and months turned into a year before we seen the first in-home services. And then it was only, I believe, 1/3 of the approved time,
Right.
and
It
it
was
just
brief.
wasn't adequate.
Yeah, it was brief, wasn't it?
It was brief, but the thing that they need to realize, when families are in crisis, the situation for us spiraled out of control quickly. And by that time, we was past any in-home services that could be applied. And I'm sure that's the same story
That's
with
where we're
Jacquelyne.
at right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in-homes, it's not going to do the trick anymore. You're way past that.
It's so frustrating to me. I was just talking to my husband this morning about it and said, I don't even know what to do with the deep frustrations that I have over this whole situation, because I have been working so hard for 3 years to every number I could call and every doctor I could talk to or advocate, and I don't have the support in that I had in that I was asking for, like tier 7, we wouldn't be in this situation. But now they're like, oh, well, it sounds like she's probably eligible for tier 7 now, but she might be better suited for residential at this point. And it's like, why did you let it get to this point?
Right.
And to me, there's no excuse for it, because even if, let's say, they believed I was making it all up and that I was just, like I said, making it up, then I'm obviously completely mentally ill. And so you're leaving a disabled child with a mentally ill person.
Right.
So either way, they needed to bring in intervention, whether they believed me or not. They didn't need to wait till it was she's spitting on at school and getting angry at school and hitting the therapist in the home. And, they didn't need to wait till then to decide that, oh yeah, we do need, because other people are seeing it now too, that the mother's been saying for 3 years has been going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kia, this is what, and I don't care to call it out because it happened. We faced crisis level situations for 2 years.
Yep.
We had ECF. We were begging for help. All we heard was no providers. Nowhere's going to accept your son. Oh, well, we told you could get respite, but he's under 18. You can't get respite. We can't get these services. It was just a broken record over and over and over. And of course, the reset button got hit when he went to Laurel Heights. And then, they, within 12 days, they said, oh, he's not having behavioral problems. Well, the state of Tennessee told us, said, well, no, you've got to start all over before he gets back into any treatment program. I said, he's tearing the sheetrock out of our house. They said, no, you got to start all over.
Three walls have holes in them, like 3
Yes.
or 4 walls. Mm-hmm.
It's the same stories, Kia. And what I don't care to call out is the social worker, when I was sitting in children's after he went into that outburst and I was injured, asked the social worker asked our coordinator, said, why does this family not have the services and resources that they need? And she documented it. After everything was done, the social worker said her response was, this family's hard to deal with and they don't follow through with anything. We had documentation on
because it's
everything.
always your fault.
Oh, always. But that's why most of the time I won't talk to them on the phone. I make everything go through email. I've got a paper trail 3 years long at this point.
Yes.
And it's not even I want to do anything with it. I just want some semblance of sanity in the home. That's all we want. We just want the services in place. The national average for in-home services is like $4,400 a month. And they have her capped at $15,000 a year. and then provide about a third to 2/3 of that each year and roll the rest into wherever they want to go.
Mhm.
You know, and when you sit there telling them how this is insufficient, we need more, or we need these things staffed, they go, well, we give you $500 a month. That's to take care of her. I don't understand what the problem is. And it's like, that doesn't cover 10 minutes of her destruction during a rage. You know, she shattered a 55-inch TV. She, you know, like, what are you talking about? They make you feel like you're just asking them to put your kid up in the Ritz Hotel and an ungrateful person when you're sitting there in crisis, like literal crisis, life and death crisis, day after day. Your home is destroyed. You're worried your child's gonna, you know, get out the house, and you turn your house into this like lockdown facility, and you just get no help. It's surreal.
So you're a prisoner,
Yeah.
basically.
That's what my husband said. It's like being a prisoner in your own home.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it definitely is. You're totally isolated. You can't take them out. You're, I mean, it's like I've shared the story about Christy, you know, taking Josh to Walmart, and he throwed himself down in the middle of the store, and 30 minutes later she gets him back out to the car. Well, by that time everybody's staring, you know, all she's needing is a little bit of help. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody can help or afraid to help. And at that point, you just finally decide, okay, this is too hard. We're just not going to go out anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I've
You're
had to have the
isolated.
ambulance get
Fine.
Jadyne out of Walmart. We don't
Yeah.
go to Walmart. It's just too overstimulating for her. Yeah.
Yeah, we've experienced that too, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about families going through this. They end up being isolated in their homes, and it becomes a prison. It becomes you can't do anything anymore. You have to tag team and take turns and watch them continually, because I know we had the same things. You had to watch. I mean, you turn your back for 5 seconds, the doors open, they're sprinting toward the road.
Yeah, we
You
have
never knew what was
code
going to happen.
locks now on my office, our son's room, our bedroom, the downstairs laundry room, the interior garage door, the back door, and the front door. So now you need codes to get out of everywhere, go into another room.
So it is prison. It's just
It is, and you know, we have to list all the codes, because and when we first had to go this route recently, you know, I felt bad having the staff come in like CNAs. I'm like, well, you can't get out without the key, so we did the code locks, you know, but those are expensive, and it's insanity. But even with that, like last night, she got up at 12:45 and was up till 4:30 in the morning. So my husband took that shift while I got some sleep, and then I got her up at 6:10 for school. So yeah, we're on shifts.
Yes. Know that all too well. And the sleep issues is another thing that people don't understand. Josh would go days sometimes like that, and it's hard on families. So obviously you've been in crisis for a while and still are in it. So
yeah, I'm like dead in it at this point. Last week they wanted me to look into a place called Cumberland, and then this week they asked me to look into Kennedy Krieger neurobehavioral. So I'm going to look into that. But the saddest part of it is, and this really truly breaks my heart, is there is nothing in the world Jada wants more than mom and home. And you know, if she does have any issues in school, that's usually what it's about. Even if she's like straight up hitting me and biting me, it's like in the middle of that rage, she'll calm down, or she'll get sad, and she'll want me to hug her, and she might go right back to hit me, but she still wants mom all the time.
right.
And she is not going to understand why she can't have either home or mom for months at a time while she is in a residential facility. And if we have to go that route, it is solely because they did not bring in the supportive services that I begged them for. I used every type of demeanor, whether it was sweet or begging or angry, that you can have over the past 3 years. They did not bring the support in that I was requesting. So I hold them directly responsible if she ends up needing to go to a residential facility.
That is so true, Jacquelyne. And I made that point in front of Tennessee state legislators a couple of years ago after Josh went into treatment, spent 15 months in Springbrook. And, you know, you've heard it before, usually 3 to 6 months in a treatment facility, they usually got enough time. He spent 15 months there. And I told the legislators, I said, look, I said, this is the most expensive option. You've got him out of state in treatment. And I said, you're spending a lot of money for that. I said, if you had gave us the resources and the services when this first started, he probably would have never required going out of state to treatment.
Right.
May have never even needed treatment at all. But because they put off, because we couldn't get any type of help, he started developing behavioral disorders on top of all of his other diagnoses. And it became worse and spiraled out of control. Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Because they are delaying services for families, we are faced with having to get treatment that may have never, ever took place.
Right.
And it is solely upon the fact that we can't get the help that we need when we start requesting it. When a family's begging for help in crisis, it shouldn't be 2 or 3 years down the road.
No.
It needs to be immediately.
Right. It does. And there's just no excuse for it. I mean, we get over $20 billion a year in tourism fees. Every dollar I spend to put food in my kid's mouth, they take out 10 cents, you know, for their taxes. So how are you spending all this money on taxes and then being told you don't even have somewhere for crisis response, like immediate acute crisis response? It's like, sorry, you're doing the best job you can. Fix the holes in the wall when you can. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Here's $500.
Right. Right.
So is she
Jacquelyne,
in category 7? She's
What's
not.
that?
Is she in group 7?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Supposedly, if people return phone calls to my providers that are in, or, you know, whatever they're doing, my providers are great and they're working their tail off to get certain people to respond and get this ball rolling. But if they do that, supposedly she will be on tier 7 soon. But like Vance was saying, at this point, you know, who you gonna find to come in and get spit on and hit? And, you know, now they're gonna try to tell me, you know, well, she needs residential, but it's so frustrating, because then when she's in the hospital for 24 hours, even, all my services I do have cease and they need to be recertified and restarted. So that's my other concern, is if I do put her in to one of these places, what happens when I bring her home? So she's not going to come home to having CNA hours. She's not going to come home to having therapy in the home. That's going to have to all get recertified.
Yep.
It's so frustrating. It really is.
It is.
It really is. It's a fragmented system. It's so fragmented and it's so broken up. It's just like right now, Jacquelyne, Josh is in group 8. He's in residential. We're in the middle of a discussion right now. They're wanting to move him back down to group 6. And he just recently ran his arm through a window and had to have staples through his thumb, and it got infected, and they couldn't even handle him with all the staff there at the house because the outburst was so severe. They had to call an ambulance and get help because they couldn't get him to the hospital. Yet ECF saying, oh, well, we need to be talking about step down. I don't get it. I'm just going to be real honest with y'all. I don't get it. I don't understand why we're at this point. That when everything's documented, everything's got to be pushed. And that's the trouble with group 7 and 8, is they're temporary when you read on them. So here we are again. They made something temporary that you've got certain individuals that going to need that level of support now the rest of their life.
Right.
And the sad thing is, like Jacquelyne said, because we've avoided it and put it off and delayed it, now we've reached this point that could be permanent, that may have never been. That is what is so sad about this to me.
Yeah. So we definitely have to keep telling our stories and keep talking about it. The more we talk about it and send it to our legislators and complain about it and give awareness that this is not working. This system is not fractured. It's not broken. It's non-existent. It's
It's
not a system.
Really, it is. Yeah.
It's not a system if it's not helping the people that it's supposed to help, especially and if it's not it and it was exactly how you said it, Jacquelyne. You're taxed day after day after day, but still you have no services. You have no services. So we have a whole program that's not working for a whole bunch of people. It's not a system.
Right.
It's a band-aid for a bullet wound. This is too much. This is too much.
You said it perfect right then, Kia. It is. It's just a band-aid. It's not fixing the issues at all. And Jacquelyne, let me ask you, have you ever heard anybody tell you that there's only 12 families in the state of Tennessee facing this?
I have heard that, and every provider that I've relayed that to has laughed at that, because they all have more than 12 families that are dealing with this, so that number is much, much bigger.
Oh yeah. Me and Patience, our first interview, I know her well. We've both been told it, and I thought I'll ask her, and I'm sure you've heard it, and you have. So for some reason, they like to tell everybody there's only 12 families facing this, and we both know that there's many families across the state facing this.
That's a language that they're saying to everybody, and that's their system. Is that they're 12? Yeah.
Well, that's the system that's being portrayed to the legislators.
Right. That's the system.
They're saying there's only 12 families facing these kind of crisis level behaviors. And that's simply not true. I can show you that many just in my county alone.
Right.
And we're in a rural county.
Yeah.
So
this population is so vulnerable and so disadvantaged that it shouldn't matter if there were only 12, if there was only one.
Right.
Somebody who is that dependent on the skills and ability of another human being, that they can safely eat, that they can toilet, that they can function that day and survive, needs to have those supportive services in place. I don't care if it's one person or 1,000 person. There is no excuse to ever allow the most vulnerable population to suffer the way that they have.
Right.
Amen. That's it right there, Jacquelyne. That is no reason. That's what hurt me so much, because I was in a meeting with Tennessee legislator and all these different department heads after our story come out, and they were all apologizing. I got plenty of apologies.
I got them
but
too.
At the end of that, and that's what I've told them. I said, I don't need apologies. I need solutions.
Right.
But at the end of all those apologies, somebody told the head of ECF Choices, that's when it was said, right in the meeting, right in front of a Tennessee state senator, he said, well, there's only 12 families per year face this. Well, if you say it like that, do those 12 families not count? I mean, can you honestly look at our state legislators and say, well, there's only 12 of them, let's don't worry about them? Right. When this kind of crisis level, if my thinking is, if there's only 12 of them, let's get these people some help now.
And it's not just 12. It's 12 individuals, it's their two parents and all the siblings that are in that family, and their providers that are working with them, the kids at school, their teachers. That one person touches so many other lives, and all of those lives come into crisis. All of them.
Very good point. Very good.
Very good. Yes.
Very good point. And I think that's what people really need to think about it that way. Like, let's just say that it's just 12.
Right.
But then the teachers and the nurses and the doctors and the parents and the grandparents and the family members and the siblings, like that's a lot of trauma that you're spreading over over our state if it's just Tennessee.
Right.
But that's a lot of that's a lot of trauma that you're spreading over the state that may keep populating and populating if you and you could just fix it. You could fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had brain surgery last year, my mom had to take an FMLA from her job in Pittsburgh and fly down here to take care of me and Jadyne because what else? What was I
What
gonna
else you gonna do?
was ECF going to come in and do it?
Yeah.
What, you know, well, who was going to do
Was
it?
your coordinator coming? No.
I don't even think they visited. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember for sure, but I don't even think they visited during that time period. But yeah, so my mom did it, and that meant a loss of wages for her. It's not like she got paid for that, but that's what I'm talking about. It extends through the whole family, and all the people surrounding it, the providers, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that that has been the instance with your family, Vance, that it's even your church family, all of this has impacted everybody because everybody loves Josh. And so you've constantly had to constantly deal with it in one way or another. And even if you were the only family, it still goes and it bleeds on everybody else when
Sure
you could just fix it. You could just fix it.
You could just fix it. Yeah. I've told people, my mom was dying of liver failure right during the middle of the height of his crisis.
Hmm.
And I spent days upon days upon days hiding that from my mom and dad because I wanted my dad to have the last few days with my mom to be as special as it could and not have that stress. And to try to hide that. And then my dad come in the night that they took him to Erlanger and him look at me and say, I didn't realize it was this bad. And I said, Dad, I've had to hide it from you.
Hmm.
And you could just see it in his eyes. And those stories, if our legislators in our state can look us in the eye and say, you don't need help and we're not going to fix this, then so be it. But if they can't, then they need to look at us and say, we're going to fix this. Because I don't think anybody with a heart could look at these families' eyes and know the stories behind these kids and know what we're facing and deny that we need help. And
you guys could talk for the until this time next year on trauma, on stories, on one after the other. But that's not, I mean, just they have to do something. Like, because
they've got
I
to do
really
it.
do think that this has been so desensitized in our community. Like ECF is just like the great white hope. And they really haven't been for this population at all. They haven't fixed anything.
No. And
No,
they want to,
they were.
even when they get all these complaints in from all of us saying there's no providers available, they like to tell people it's because they live in rural areas. Well, I don't live in a rural area. I live in the fifth biggest metropolis in the entire state, and I live an hour from Nashville, and I don't have services. So it's not just the rural areas that don't have services.
Exactly.
Have services. That's it.
Right.
Don't.
Well, it's like us, Kia. They told us after we lost ABA services, they said, well, you don't have services available in your area. Well, I found out a few weeks later that there was 3 other families in the county that I live in that had ABA services. They just wouldn't provide it. I don't know. I can't say enough of the frustrations that I have. Of course, I want to get back to the interview with Jacquelyne, but she knows what I'm talking about. The frustration to be told over and over and over no services. And then when you find out, well, there is, but they're just not providing them, or it's like she said, once it gets to a certain level, that we've had them just point blank tell us, we're not going to send our people in to get attacked. We're not going to send our people in to get hit and hurt. They will just simply deny it.
Right.
But
And that
one thing
shouldn't
that we're
be.
facing,
That
Mhm.
shouldn't be.
no,
That's something they can fix right away. And how you fix that
Yeah.
is the same way you have coverage on a dementia unit, a memory care unit in a nursing home. You pay them more. You pay them more
exactly.
from the door. You don't pay them this whole progress related system that they're talking about moving to now, because that's just going to put a bigger gap for our kids who are not going to make progress and meet their goals. But what you do is you pay them a hazard pay because it is a hazardous job. So if you take this client that is at this level, then you need to be CPI trained. And because you need to have a higher skill set, then you also are going to get paid more money from the door, no less than $15 an hour. There should never be anybody asked to do this kind of work as a personal care attendant for less than $15 an hour. And they're paying them anywhere from 8 to 12 right now, depending on where you're at in your tiers or areas, right? It's just unacceptable. Of course, they're not going to do it. They're going to make less than they would make at White Castle.
Right.
They need to pay them more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's a big problem. That is. And another problem, Kia, it's like Jacqueline's facing right now, treatment. Where do you go for treatment? She's mentioned Kennedy Krieger. She's mentioned Cumberland. I'm sure she's probably heard of like Norris and Springbrook and
Norris won't take her. We talked to them in
Exactly.
2017. There's nobody in the state of Tennessee that will take her. And where it gets crazy and where people start not believing you that this is happening in America is that I have talked to, we've been doing this for 3 years now, crisis, especially this time of year. The first year they sent her to Laurel Heights. I won't get into that, but that was not a good experience. And the reason they sent her out of state was because there was nowhere in the entire state that would accept her. And then we were told that a new unit was opening at another facility so that if we ever ran into this again, the next time there would be a place available. So when she went into crisis this time last year, I called the place that they told me would be available, and they're not equipped to handle her either. So there is nowhere in the whole state. So you are told as a parent who, does not have the proper training, does not have access 24/7 to a pharmacy in the facility, does not have the home set up as a secure facility, doesn't have 24/7 medical staff. You are told that they're not equipped to handle this and that you need to. And it's like, how does that come out of anybody's mouth, let alone over and over again, everybody's mouth you talk to?
Well, I did
Yes.
hear you say that you have to contact another facility and check on them. Let me ask you a question. Are they vetting any of these places for her needs?
No. Oh, no. So
Oh, that's you.
yeah, they didn't do that. No, I called. They give me, just like they recently did, they're like, well, have you ever heard of Cumberland? You might want to check them out. Or have you ever heard of Kennedy Krieger? You might want to check them out. So I'm calling these places and I'm filling out the applications, and then they'll do the referrals if I find her a place. But to get her down to even Laurel Heights, I took her down to Vanderbilt ER and refused to take her home. I sat there and said, listen, she's not coming back home. We're going to sit here until you find her a bed somewhere. I don't care where you find it. She's not coming back home until you treat her. So they kept her on the 7th floor till Friday morning, which was 2 days later, and said she's going to have to go home tomorrow unless you can self-transport her to Laurel Heights tonight, because we're not going to have the staff over the weekend to provide constant observation. And it's a skeleton crew on the weekend. So she's either got to go to Laurel Heights tonight or she's going to have to go back home with you. And so I had to self-transport her to Laurel Heights at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. That's another issue, self-transport. So
Mhm.
you're bringing up some of this very, very specifics that I've tried to outline and tell people that they, like you said, this is surely not happening in America. I mean, when you're in crisis level behaviors, how dangerous is it to put your child in a car and self-transport
But
them
she was catatonic
hours
at the
away?
time because they changed her medication and she had a reaction. So she couldn't even walk. They didn't give me a transport chair. I had to drive 6 hours away, so I had to stop. And now I've got a child who can't walk and is just sitting there drooling on herself. And it's like, how do you even go inside to pay the gas station? It was like, this can't be happening. And that was my self-transport. Yep, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, we run into the same thing. We had my wife. I was actually out of town. Josh's first trip to Laurel Heights. He had 2 trips there. The first trip, I was out of town at a conference, and the ambulance company refused to take him because they said he was too violent. So they wouldn't transport him, and they had to self-transport, which was very dangerous. Luckily, they didn't have any incidents, but you know that could happen. So that's another issue that's got to be addressed, Kia, is when we're in crisis, why did we not even have services then?
Right.
It's like,
Transportation too.
Transportation.
yes,
Yeah.
you
Thank
got to have,
goodness
that's
that
a basic.
telehealth, I mean, that's a good thing that came out of the pandemic is everybody's doing telehealth now. So it's a lot easier to have access to that. But trying to go down to Vanderbilt has become really hairy this past year because
Mhm.
she's had a few times where she's, gone completely crazy in the car. I'm driving down I-24 on the way back from Vanderbilt, and she wants to go to the doctor that we just came from, and she doesn't understand that we already were at the doctor. So she's so angry and she's kicking and she's hitting and screaming inside the car as you're trying to drive 70 miles an hour down the highway.
It's so
Right.
much like we definitely we're so grateful for you, Jacquelyne, for you even telling us your story and giving us some ideas of what you as a parent would like to see. I really did like the suggestion for law enforcement, but I also heard, the transportation issue or that services are supposed to be, you can't get services in residential, but you are supposed to be the person that can provide services
Yeah.
or even telling, people that, that sometimes you may have to speak up for your child's care, or you may have to do the things yourself or educate yourself to advocate properly. So, Jacquelyne, you're a blessing. First of all, to the state and just awareness and helping parents because you're the voice of them. They don't have a voice. They're over there in crisis, so they don't have a, they can't hold it. And even like with you, we had to schedule this when you could.
Yes, I have an amazing CNA. I think she's probably the best CNA in the whole country. She's been with me over a year. She's got tons of years of experience. She's seen it all, done it all. Nothing phases her. If we could have quality care like that, we would never have an issue. This is I only have her 8 hours a week, but those 8 hours are the only piece of a week I get it as of late. But I fully trust that she can handle whatever's going on outside that door right now. I don't
Right.
have to worry about it. She's more than capable. So
So you just get 8 hours of break a week.
that's not what I'm ordered or approved of. That's what I've been getting. But
Mhm.
the nursing agency hasn't been able to staff my hours, but they recently just hired a new girl. She just started this week. So hopefully the rest of my hours will be staffed, and the doctor
She
is
works
trying
out.
to push for additional hours. So hopefully they'll be able to staff those. But for the past several months, yeah, no, I've only been getting 8 hours a week. So yeah.
Right. Yep. Similar issues with us. We got 4 to 5 hours, about a third of what we was approved for. And like you said, that's not it's not addressing the issues. It's not getting them the treatment. And Kia, one thing I want to point out, and Jacquelyne can probably attest to this also, is there, like she said, there's nowhere in the state of Tennessee to get treatment. I have been requesting and begging our legislators to get 2 treatment facilities in the state. One kind of centralized in the eastern part and one to the western part of the state, where it wouldn't be hard on families to get somewhere when we need to, and have these treatment facilities in state where they can handle these situations and are trained and equipped, similar to like Springbrook or Kennedy Krieger. And what I've been told is we are wasting our time because the state of Tennessee has closed down anything that's a institution. So they're not going to open up treatment facilities. So I don't know why that comparison is being made, but it's also blocking any efforts when families are telling them, look, we need treatment facilities here.
Acute facility is not the same as a long-term residential. They're completely different. So that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And we need those facilities, and we need them now. And
we have
need
them in Pittsburgh. I didn't know until I moved here that the rest of the world didn't have access to stuff like that. You know, I just thought that's what happens when somebody's in crisis. You take them to the hospital. But
wow.
Yeah, it's bad here.
Yeah,
I would fully support any effort that you have to try to get that rolling. Anything that I can do or who I can talk to, we do need that. She'd have been there this past couple of weeks if something like that was available.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to get you to share. We're going to get and share more and share with more. We're also going to get your story out to some very influential people, just so that they know that this is going on with you. We don't think that you should be suffering in silence. We really do believe that we have to pull awareness to this. That's the only way it's going to work.
I believe that.
Yeah. So Vance,
there's just so much. I know we don't have a lot of time. There's just so much going through my head right now. But Kia, it even frustrates me now to go through these interviews and to listen to them and then think back of the things we was told. And Kia, it's the same story. It's the same story. So we're seeing these patterns over and over with ECF and the state. The same phrases.
That's the problem, is because it feels like I'm hearing this all over again. I hear it over and over. You read these stories on, Voice for Joshua. It's the same story. And I don't understand why we have to tell the same story over and over again. This is crazy.
And everybody who does want to help, that's a provider, that maybe they have worked a long time in the field, maybe they remember what it was like when there were services, or maybe they actually have a heart, and they all are so sorry, and they have such contrition in their voice when they're telling you, I am just like so sorry. I don't want to be the next person to send you to the next person, but I just don't have the resources, or this state just doesn't have services, and we're just so sorry, and it's not okay. And you hear that over and over and over again, but it's the same story.
Right. It's the same story. So we gotta, something has to give. Even if we all have to go up to, Capitol, we all have to go to Nashville and speak with every one of our legislators and tell them the same story over and over again, and go from room to room, then if that's what we have to do. And then if we got to go back the next day and do it and take our children with us and let them see them, then maybe that's something that we really have to look into doing, like, soon. Because I don't know how much longer Like, how much longer is Jacquelyne going to be able to just juggle it?
She tried to jump off the back deck balcony Saturday. My respite worker stopped her. My respite worker is a friend of mine that we hired in, not that they did. But she stopped her from trying to jump off the back deck. So yeah, it's gotten pretty severe lately, and it's just like you're always that one moment away from she's going to significantly hurt herself, and
Right.
that's your biggest fear because Jadyne is at her core. Jadyne is full of light and sweet and just joyful. She's the sunshine in every room. She loves Elsa and rainbows and unicorn and the color pink and dancing and parties and people. Her brain is just under fire, and it is a medical, it is, it's, you can look at her DNA and see what's going on. It's not something we cause. It's not something she can control, and we need help. And
Right.
she needs it. I don't know what I would do if something happened to her.
Right. And that's the thing as a mother. And what sometimes they perceive when they hear those, when they hear these stories, like how you're looking for residential care. Oh, she doesn't want to be a parent. That's not it. You don't want her to hurt herself. You want her to, and that's why you want the services at home, because you say it as a mom, she loves mama and she loves home. If you can fix it by giving her peace, then give her peace.
Right.
And it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to do the services at home than to do it at a at residential. So
I've heard them say that. What you bring up is a good point. I heard them tell another provider that the mom just wants a break.
Yeah, that's
what they say. That is not the case. And I'll tell you the exact opposite. If I end up having to traumatize my child by sending her to residential, where
then you're going to be
crying for mom and home every day for 2 to 3 months, what you think I'm going to do with all that extra time I got on my hands? Right. I'm going to be in Nashville. I'm going to be knocking down legislators' doors to put some changes in place for this, so this doesn't happen to anybody else's families. They don't want her in residential any more than I do, because they don't want me to have that kind of time on my hands.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And for nothing else, if they're listening to this, they need to go ahead and fix it, because they don't want to see you in Nashville.
No.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have to sing you. I think we're going to have to take you to Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vance,
that's what I've had people tell me, kids. What they said, well, you've got Josh into a program now, and why don't you just rest? And that's been my point. I've told them all along, I said, our intentions never was to have Josh in residential. Right. We wanted help. We wanted to get him stabilized. We wanted him home. They put it off to the point where we had no choice anymore. And they said, well, why don't you take a break? I said, how can I? Other families are facing this. These stories have to be told. We cannot let this go. I said, I'm not going to sit back and say, okay, well, I've got help now. It's just time to relax. No, there's other families facing this, and I cannot stand the thought of other families going through it. And Jacquelyne can tell you the same thing. Once you face this level of trauma, you just hope and pray to God that nobody ever faces this again.
Right.
Nobody.
I get it. So anything you want to add, Jacquelyne?
No, I just appreciate, I really appreciate that you did take the forefront here, Vance, and you and Christy, and just made it so the rest of us could have a voice, because, you're helping to remove the stigma. It allows parents to know that, hey, this is going on other places, then maybe it's not just me. And you're gathering the people. You're going to be able to take them down there and show them more than 12.
Right.
And make some noise.
And thank you
That's
so much.
what we're planning on doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for for even doing all this, Vance. Not, just with everything else that you have with your family and everything, even, bringing awareness to this over and over again. Like, you're a pillar of the community, where you're an extreme blessing to our community. And one day it will benefit. One day it will. And we'll have, if we'll just have all the breath in our lungs or none of the breath in our lungs, we'll keep fighting until it's done.
Yep. That's what I mean. I told some of the other parents in the group, I said, I'm in this for the long haul. You might not see movement at times. You may get discouraged at times where you've tried and you've called and you've emailed and you've begged and you've pleaded. But the thing is, Kia, there's more of us when growing. It's growing. There's more coming to the group. We're finding more families every day. More starting to speak out, say, yes, we're facing this. We need help. Yes, we're going through this. So, and I'm glad if we can remove that stigma. There is a stigma involved, and I think that stigma has kept families quiet. And we have to speak out. We have to know.
Right.
So, Jacquelyne, I just want to say thank you for doing this. We know it's hard. We know what it's like to tell the stories and to speak about it publicly. We know it's not easy, but I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, and if Christy wasn't able to be on the interview tonight, but she would say the same thing. We just want to say thank you from the bottom of her heart, and God bless you, and thank you. And you're in our thoughts and prayers, and we really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacquelyne. It was very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you guys too.
All right. Thank you.